Ethan Hale had always believed that the strongest cracks were the ones you couldn't see, the kind that lived beneath the surface, hiding behind polite smiles, calm voices, and the everyday rhythm of a shared life. His relationship with Laura had survived 3 years of storms at least, that's what he thought. What he didn't know was that some storms don't roar. Some creep in quietly, settling like a shadow in the corners of a home you thought was safe. The first sign wasn't dramatic. It wasn't shouting, slammed doors, or suspicious messages. It was far smaller, almost invisible. Laura stopped asking him how his day was. She used to be the kind of person who listened closely, her chin resting on her palm while her eyes carried that warm, attentive glow. But gradually, that glow faded. When Ethan came home from late shifts at the architecture studio, he found her curled on the couch, scrolling her phone with an expression he couldn't read anymore. He tried to brush it off. She's tired, he told himself. Work is stressing her out. But excuses only hid the truth for so long. It was the night of the heavy autumn rain, one of those nights where the sky seemed to fall apart, that the fracture widened. The storm outside thrashed against the windows of their small apartment, wind howling like something wounded. Ethan sat at his drafting table, staring at blueprints that refused to make sense. His mind kept drifting back to Laura, who had stepped out an hour earlier with a vague "I'm meeting Maya" tossed over her shoulder. He didn't doubt her at first. He never had. Trust had always been the foundation of what they built, a foundation he naively believed unbreakable. But when midnight approached, and she still wasn't home, something cold settled in his chest. The apartment felt too still, too silent, like it was holding its breath, waiting for him to realize something he didn't want to see. He picked up his phone. "Ethan, hey, is everything okay?" No reply. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Restlessness pulled him to his feet. He paced the living room, the soft hum of the refrigerator becoming unbearable. When he finally sat down, he noticed something beneath Laura's sketchbook, half hidden under a few loose sheets of paper. A small silver key. He frowned. It wasn't one of theirs. Their apartment keys were brass, their mailbox key copper. This one was different, sleek, polished, new. He shouldn't have touched it. Part of him knew that. But when doubt sinks its teeth into you, curiosity becomes a kind of sickness. He lifted the key, examining it under the dim lamp. There was no label, no markings, just a cold metallic shine that reflected his growing anxiety. His mind raced. A storage unit, a new office, someone else's place. He hated that last thought, hated how naturally it came. Thunder cracked outside, rattling the window pane. Ethan tried to push away the spiraling assumptions. For years he had trusted Laura blindly. Surely that meant something. Surely he wasn't the kind of person who went searching for betrayal in harmless things. But the unease didn't leave. It crawled deeper. At 12:54 a.m., the door clicked softly. Laura slipped inside, damp hair clinging to her cheeks, jacket speckled with rain. She froze when she noticed Ethan awake. "You're still up?" Her voice was calm, but too light, like she'd rehearsed it. "Yeah," Ethan said slowly. "You were gone longer than usual." "Traffic," she answered too quickly. "Maya and I got caught in the storm." Ethan nodded, though something in her tone didn't match the words. Her eyes avoided his. Her hands tugged her jacket sleeves nervously. She looked like someone bracing for questions she didn't want to answer. He wanted to ask where she really was, why she didn't reply, what the key was. But he didn't. "Not tonight. Next time. Just text me," he said softly. "I will," she murmured, before disappearing into the bathroom. Ethan listened to the sound of the shower turning on. It echoed unnaturally in the quiet apartment. He stared at the silver key on the table. He could have put it back, forgotten it, pretended he saw nothing, heard nothing, suspected nothing. But the truth was simple. Once suspicion roots itself inside you, it grows. It grows with every unanswered message, every late night, every strange shift in the person you love. And Ethan had just taken the first step into a truth that would tear everything apart. He didn't know it yet. But tonight was the beginning of the end. The start of the fracture. The morning after the storm felt strangely muted, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Light filtered through the curtains in thin, pale streaks, casting faint shadows across the wooden floor. Ethan barely slept. His mind kept replaying the previous night in fragmented loops. The silver key, Lara's too calm voice, her damp hair, the strange tension in her eyes. By the time Lara emerged from the bedroom, freshly dressed and carrying her bag, Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee he hadn't tasted. She glanced at him briefly. "You're up early," she said, tying her hair into a loose knot. "So are you," he replied. She hesitated, then forced a quick smile. "I've got a lot to finish at the studio today. I figured I'd go in earlier." Ethan knew her schedule. She never went in this early. "But he didn't point it out, right?" he said. Her eyes flicked toward something on the table, the silver key, partially hidden under a napkin. She froze for just a fraction of a second. Most people wouldn't have noticed it. Ethan did. "What's that?" she asked, voice to neutral. "Not sure," Ethan answered softly. "Found it under your sketchbook last night. Thought it might be yours." Lara blinked. Her hand tightened slightly around the strap of her bag. "It's not mine," she said quickly. "Probably something from work. One of the interns, maybe. You know how chaotic things get when we're building models." The explanation was plausible, but the tension was not. Ethan nodded slowly, offering her a way out. "I can leave it on the counter. If someone asks, you'll have it." "Yeah, sure," she muttered, already turning away. "I should go. I'll be back for dinner." She leaned down and kissed his cheek. It was brief, mechanical, a gesture of habit, not affection. Then she left. The door clicked shut with a softness that hurt more than if she had slammed it. The apartment felt colder once she was gone. Ethan stared at the coffee until it grew lukewarm. He replayed every second of their exchange, every flicker of her expression. The small hesitation when she saw the key, the too fast denial, the subtle tension in her shoulders. It wasn't proof, but it wasn't nothing. His day at the architecture studio dragged painfully. Normally the familiar environment would dust, renderings pinned to walls. The quiet hum of computers gave him a sense of balance. Today, it felt like he was moving through fog. He misaligned a measurement, something he hadn't done since university. He saved the wrong version of a floor plan. His coworker Ben asked him twice if he was okay. "I'm fine," Ethan kept answering, even though the lie tasted bitter. At lunch, while everyone else chatted near the windows, Ethan slipped into a quiet corner and checked Lara's messages, wondering if she had texted him. Nothing. She always messaged at least once during the day, a joke, a question, a quick photo of some half-finished model. Today, silence. He typed a short message. "Ethan, hope your day's going well." He stared at the screen for several seconds before locking his phone again. When he returned home that evening, the apartment was just as he left it. Dark, still, too quiet. He cooked pasta for both of them, Lara's favorite, the one she always said tasted better when he made it. He left her plate covered on the table. Hours passed. At 10:42 p.m., the door finally opened. Lara stepped inside, noticeably startled to see him awake again. "Oh, hey," she said, wiping something invisible off her jacket sleeve. "You didn't have to wake up. I thought we were having dinner together," Ethan replied softly. Her mouth tensed. "We got stuck working late. I'm exhausted." "Ethan, can we not do this right now?" He swallowed. "I wasn't starting anything. I just asked." She brushed past him and into the kitchen. Her eyes lingered on the untouched plate he'd saved for her. For a moment, guilt flickered across her expression, but only for a moment. "You shouldn't have made dinner," she muttered. "You know how unpredictable my schedule is. I made it because I thought we'd eat together." "Well, you shouldn't have waited," she snapped before she could stop herself. Silence followed, heavy, awkward, sharp. Lara immediately rubbed her forehead. "Sorry, I didn't mean. I'm just tired." Ethan nodded. He wasn't angry. Confused, yes. Hurt, absolutely. But beneath it all was a growing sense of fear of asking the wrong question, fear of hearing an answer that would break him. After a moment he said quietly, "Is everything okay with us?" Laura froze. Then she smiled. But it wasn't a real smile. It was thin, tense, fragile. "Of course it is," he said. "You're overthinking again." Again. The word stung. Before Ethan could reply, she stepped away. "I'm going to shower." He watched her disappear into the hallway. Then, slowly, he walked to the table and picked up the silver key again. His hands trembled slightly. He wasn't the kind of person who snooped. He hated invading someone's privacy. But the unspoken distance between them felt like a locked door one he didn't have the courage to open, but also couldn't walk away from, because some part of him already understood the truth. People don't change this suddenly unless something or someone has already changed them. The shower ran in the background. Muffled through the wall, Ethan stared at the key and for the first time allowed himself to think the words he'd been avoiding. What if she isn't just drifting away? What if she's hiding something? And worse, what if I'm already too late to stop it? The next morning felt heavier than the last, as if every hour Laura drifted further away added a new layer of weight to Ethan's chest. The silver key sat on the desk where he had left it, gleaming faintly in the weak daylight. He tried not to look at it, failed. He prepared breakfast for himself, not for both of them, not this time. Laura emerged 20 minutes later, dressed in a different outfit than the one she had laid out last night. Small detail. But details mattered. "Morning," she said, voice stiff but polite. "Morning." She poured herself coffee without asking if he wanted another cup. She always asked, always. The absence of that tiny ritual felt like a sharp crack in a window, barely noticeable, but the beginning of a much bigger break. She checked the time twice in 40 seconds. "You're leaving early again?" Ethan said casually. Her shoulders tightened. "Yeah, we're behind on a presentation." "You were behind yesterday too." She set her mug down, hard. "Ethan, yes. We're behind. It happens. Please stop interrogating me." He blinked. "I'm not interrogating you. I asked one question." Laura opened her mouth, closed it again, then exhaled sharply. "I'm sorry. Today is stressful. I should go." She grabbed her bag and left without finishing her coffee. This time the door didn't close gently. It slammed. Ethan stood in the kitchen long after her footsteps faded down the staircase. His pulse thudded in his ears. Not because she left. People argued. Couples argued. But because every instinct in him whispered the same thing. She was lying, and not just in the casual, harmless way people do to avoid conflict. No, this felt practiced, rehearsed. Something was happening behind the closed doors of Lara's new schedule. And Ethan wasn't sure which terrified him more. The possibility that she was seeing someone else, or the possibility that he was slowly losing his mind. At work, he distracted himself with blueprints and structural analyses, but he found himself tracing lines without seeing them. Ben, his coworker, stopped by his desk twice. "You good, man?" Ben asked. "I'm fine. You sure? You're spacing out like crazy." "Just tired." The lie felt sour. By lunch, Ethan couldn't take the uncertainty anymore. He opened his phone, checking again if Laura had messaged him. Nothing. Not even a single word. Normally, even when busy, she answered quickly. Today was complete silence. Again, he typed another message, short, simple. "Ethan, hope things are going better today. Text me when you have a moment." He didn't hit send. His thumb hovered over the screen. If he sent it, she would either ignore it or answer with another hollow explanation. Neither option would give him relief. Instead, he erased it. Maybe space was the only thing he could give her, even if that space felt like a cliff edge beneath him. When he got home that evening, the apartment was dark. Laura wasn't there. Her shoes weren't by the door. Her jacket wasn't on the hook. Ethan checked the clock. 8:07 p.m. He paced the living room. Tried to read, failed. Tried to watch something, failed. Tried to eat, failed. After 2 bites. By 9:20, he finally sat down, gripping the silver key between his fingers. Where did it fit? What did it open? And why had she reacted the way she did when she saw it? He turned it over slowly. The metal was smooth, well-maintained. Not old, not rusty. It looked expensive, purposeful. At 9:41 p.m., the door clicked. Ethan exhaled. Laura stepped inside, cheeks slightly flushed, hair messier than usual, jacket unzipped even though it was cold outside. "Hey," she said breathlessly. "Sorry I'm late. Where were you?" She blinked. "I told you we have the presentation tomorrow. We stayed late to polish it. Why are you acting like this?" He stood up. "Laura, it's almost 10. Yeah, and you said you'd be back earlier." She rolled her eyes and tossed her keys onto the table. "Ethan, please. I'm tired. I don't have energy for another argument. Do you want to talk about what's going on with you?" he asked, voice breaking slightly. "Because it feels like you're, I don't know, slipping away." Her jaw tightened. "That's dramatic." "It's honest." The tension in the room stretched thin. Then for the first time all week Laura softened. Just a little. She walked toward him and touched his arm lightly. "Look," she said quietly, "these past days have just been exhausting. I'm not avoiding you. I'm not hiding anything. I just need some space to breathe." "Space from what?" "Everything," she whispered. From him. The words she didn't say rang louder than the ones she did. Before he could reply, her phone vibrated sharply in her pocket. She flinched. Ethan noticed. She turned away from him instantly, stepping farther into the hallway. "I'll be right back," she said quickly, already moving. "Just give me a second." She disappeared into the bedroom and closed the door. Not all the way, just enough to signal she didn't want him hearing the conversation. Ethan stood absolutely still. Her voice was low. Too low to understand the words. But her tone, soft, almost nervous. Nothing like the sharp edge she had used with him minutes earlier. He tried not to listen. He tried not to interpret the fragments. Then he heard it, a laugh, quiet, gentle, a laugh he hadn't heard from her in weeks. Something inside him cracked. Laura emerged moments later, composed, phone tucked away. "Work stuff," she said quickly. "Long day. Can we just not do this tonight?" Ethan nodded numbly. "Yeah, sure." She kissed his cheek. The same mechanical gesture as before. Then she walked past him, heading toward the bathroom. Ethan sank onto the couch. His hand shook. He stared at the silent room, darker now, colder. The distance between them felt like an entire ocean. He thought of the key again. Something inside him whispered, "You already know the truth. You just don't want to face it." And for the first time, Ethan allowed himself to wonder not if Laura was hiding something, but how long she'd been hiding it. Ethan barely slept that night. Laura lay beside him, her breathing steady, calm, rhythmic, yet the space between them felt like two strangers occupying the same room. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her stepping away with her phone pressed to her ear, smiling a smile he hadn't earned, laughing a laugh he didn't recognize anymore. Around 3 a.m., he slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen. The apartment was quiet, the city outside muted beneath layers of night. He made tea just for something to hold, something warm, something that didn't lie to him. He sat at the table staring at the grain of the wood until the sky began to lighten. When Laura woke, she barely looked at him. "Morning," she murmured. Ethan forced a small smile. "Morning." She was pulling her hair into a loose bun as she moved around the bedroom. He watched her methodically choose an outfit different from yesterday, more polished, a little more intentional. The kind of outfit someone chooses when they want to be noticed. "I'll be home earlier today," she said, grabbing her bag. "We're finishing up everything by lunch." "Okay, don't wait up. I might run errands afterward." That didn't make sense. If she'd be free earlier, why warn him about coming home late? He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally said, "Laura, can we talk for a minute?" She froze at the door, not turned toward him, facing away. "Do we have to?" she asked quietly. "Yes." Ethan's voice was soft but certain. "We do." Slowly, she turned to him. Her expression was tired, guarded, prepared for a fight. "I don't know what's going on," Ethan said. "I'm not accusing you of anything. But you've been distant. You barely talk to me. You come home late. You hide your phone. Can you please tell me what's really happening? Lara bit her lip, eyes darting away for a second, just 1 second, but enough for him to see something flicker behind them. I'm overwhelmed, she said finally. That's all. Overwhelmed. I feel suffocated sometimes. Not by you, just by everything. Then let me help, he said gently. You can't, she whispered. Those two words stunned. Before he could reply, her phone lit up in her hand with a notification. She turned the screen away from him so fast she almost dropped it. I have to go, she said, voice cracking just slightly. Please don't start overthinking. I'm fine. She left, but Ethan wasn't fine. Work dragged on painfully slowly. Every sound in the office felt sharper, every moment heavier. He found himself replaying her movements, her tone, that laugh behind the bedroom door. By noon, he couldn't focus anymore. He checked her location on their shared app, not stalking, just worried. Location unavailable. That had never happened before. The next time he checked, it still showed nothing. Not even her last known place. It was as if she'd disabled it. Or someone else told her to. At 2:47 p.m. Ethan stepped into the elevator of Lara's office building. He didn't plan any of this, he just couldn't sit still anymore. The receptionist recognized him instantly. Hi, Ethan. Picking up Lara. His stomach twisted. Actually, I wanted to surprise her. Is she at her desk? The receptionist frowned. Lara, no, she left around noon. Said she wasn't feeling well. Ethan forced a smile. Oh, right, yeah, I forgot, thanks. He walked out of the building with his pulse pounding. Lara had said she'd be working all day. She even told him not to wait for her because she'd be running errands, but she had left work hours ago. And she hadn't told him. His phone buzzed. A message from her. Lara, still at the office. Long day again. Don't worry about dinner. Ethan stopped walking. The message was a lie. A direct, deliberate lie. Something inside him tightened. Not anger. Not even heartbreak. Just clarity. He sat in his car for a long moment. Then he picked up the silver key. If she wasn't where she said she'd be, maybe the key would tell him where she was. For weeks it had whispered to him, a silent answer waiting to be found. He started the car. He didn't know where he was going, but something deeper than logic tugged him east, toward the older part of the city where narrow streets wound between buildings older than both of them. He stopped only when his instinct told him to. A row of storage units stretched along the block, silent, colorless, too ordinary to attract attention. Ethan got out and scanned the numbers until one matched the engraving on the key's bow. Unit 47B. His heart hammered against his ribs. Was this too far? Was he invading privacy? Was he crossing a line? But Lara had crossed so many already. Hands trembling, he inserted the key. It fit perfectly. The lock turned. He lifted the door. Inside was not what he expected. No boxes of old clothes. No furniture. No forgotten hobbies. It was almost empty, except for a small metal table, a chair, a locked cabinet, and Lara's scarf, the one she claimed she lost months ago, folded neatly on the table. Ethan's breath hitched. The scarf was unmistakable, a deep wine red, embroidered at the edges. He had given it to her on their 3rd anniversary. He reached for it with shaking fingers. It was recently worn. As he held it, something under the table caught his eye, a single receipt. He knelt and picked it up, a receipt for 2 coffees and a pastry, stamped with this morning's date, 10:32 a.m. 2 blocks from here. Lara had been here, not at work, not running errands, here. With someone else. His chest tightened, not in anger, but in that cold, hollow way that comes right before the truth becomes undeniable. He set the scarf down slowly. Then he noticed the cabinet's lock, similar to the doors, the same brand, same age, same shape. The silver key had 2 teeth, 2 functions. His pulse raced as he slid the key into the cabinet lock. It turned. The cabinet opened with a quiet metallic click. Inside were neatly organized folders, photos, notes, Lara's handwriting everywhere. But what hit Ethan hardest was the first photo clipped to the front folder. Lara standing beside a man he didn't recognize, smiling. Very close. Too close, not romantic necessarily, but intimate enough to twist his stomach. The folder's title, handwritten in bold black ink, Project Solace Confidential. He whispered the words under his breath. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't a simple lie. This was something else. Something bigger. Something Lauren never wanted him to see. He stood frozen, the photo trembling in his hand, every piece of his world shifting again. Not breaking but rearranging into a pattern he didn't yet understand. But one truth was now unavoidable. Lara had a secret life, and Ethan was standing right in the middle of it. The night after the confrontation sat heavily over the city, stretching its cold silence across streets that had seen too many secrets. Daniel didn't sleep. He lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling as shadows trembled across it, unable to quiet the storm inside him. Every thought spiraled around the same center: the betrayal, the unraveling of trust, and the brutal clarity of everything that had been hidden in plain sight. He replayed the moment they all stood in that room. Him, Emma, and Mark, the air choking with unfinished truths. He could still feel how stiff his hands were, how the silence pressed against his chest like a weight. He had imagined revenge, imagined shutting, imagined walking away without feeling anything. But standing in front of them, he realized none of those fantasies mattered. What hurt most was how small he felt, as if his entire world had shrunk into a single point of pain. By morning he hadn't eaten, hadn't moved much, just let the numbness cover him like a blanket. But numbness never lasts long. When the sun rose, it cracked the darkness open, letting the raw it flood back. His phone buzzed. Emma. Again. He didn't open her messages. He didn't have the strength to see paragraphs of apologies, explanations, or desperate attempts to rewrite what happened. Instead, he left the apartment. He needed air, space, something larger than the mess he was trapped in. Walking across the river bridge, he watched the water shift beneath him. Slow, relentless, honest. That was the word that stuck. Honest. Water never pretended to be anything it wasn't. It flowed where gravity pulled it. It reflected what was in front of it. It didn't lie to hold something together. He wished people worked like that. Then, for the first time in days, he answered someone, not Emma, but his older brother, Alex, who had texted simply, "I'm here. Whatever you need," Daniel called in. When Alex picked up, he didn't force him to speak. No questions, no pressure, just silence, but the kind that made breathing easier. "Come over," Alex said eventually. "You shouldn't be alone right now." Daniel went. Alex's apartment smelled faintly of coffee and old books. He sat Daniel down, passed him a mug, and waited. Only when Daniel finally began to talk slowly, painfully, haltingly did Alex respond. And he didn't respond like someone giving advice. He responded like someone witnessing a wound. "She lied to me," Daniel said. "Not once. Not twice. For months, I know," Alex said softly. "And I still don't feel angry. Just empty." That's what happens when someone you trust breaks the foundation instead of the surface. Daniel stared at the window, where sunlight cut through the dusty glass in thin warm strips. He wanted to believe sunlight could fix him. But healing wasn't sunlight. Healing was time. Healing was choosing not to reopen the wound every morning. "Do you want to go back to her?" Alex asked cautiously. Daniel shook his head. "I don't even know who she is anymore." "Then don't focus on her," Alex said. "Focus on who you want to be after this." The sentence landed like a stone in water, clean, heavy. True. Daniel took a deep breath. "I just don't want this to be the thing that defines me." "It won't," Alex said. "Not unless you let it." Later that afternoon, when Daniel returned to his apartment, it felt different. Still painful, still full of memories that stung, but also strangely lighter, as if the truth had finally settled into something solid instead of something chaotic. He found another message from Emma, this one short. "If you want, we can talk one last time. If not, I'll disappear from your life completely. Just tell me what you choose." He stared at the message a long time. "A week ago, he would have said yes immediately. 3 days ago, he might have screamed at her. Yesterday, he would have ignored it. Now, he typed slowly, deliberately. We can talk, but not to fix anything. They met in a quiet cafe. Emma looked different, not physically, but in the way her eyes held themselves. There was guilt in them, fear, and something like acceptance. Thank you for coming, she whispered. Daniel nodded but said nothing. I know I broke something I can't repair, she continued. I won't make excuses. I won't rewrite anything. I want you to know that the person who hurt you isn't the person I want to be. Daniel listened. Her words didn't change anything, but they felt honest, which was more than he expected. I'm not here to hate you, Daniel said quietly. I'm here to close the door properly. Emma's eyes shone. I understand. They talked for an hour. About the past, the mistakes, the fragments of a relationship that had once been beautiful. And when they finally stood, there was no anger left, no warmth either, just a calm acceptance that some chapters end, even if you weren't ready. Outside, snow had begun to fall. The first snowfall of the year, gentle, slow, almost symbolic. Daniel watched Emma walk away until she turned the corner and disappeared. And then, for the first time since everything fell apart, he felt something new: freedom. Not joy, not relief, but the sense that the future, however uncertain, belonged to him again. When he walked home through the snow, he didn't look back. This time, he didn't need to.